Hey, how's it going, my web development friends? Thanks for checking out the channel and welcome. My name is Taylor and this is Coding for Tacos. Today I want to talk about a subject that is very important to me, and this is a video I really could have used a year or 2 years ago, and that is the number one enemy of new developers. If you're watching this video, I'm sure you are well aware of many of the reasons why people are learning to code and why people want to become web developers. Every project is unique and different, and you need to use your creative problem-solving abilities for each different project. You can often work remotely as a web developer, and programmers and web developers in general are paid well and can make a very good living for themselves. So it makes sense why so many people are learning to code, especially with all of the free learning resources out there these days. But, and I've seen a lot of different numbers out there, a lot of different data, but I feel like it's very, very safe to say that less than 10% of those people who start learning to code with the intention of getting a job or getting that first big freelance gig actually are able to do that and actually get that job or that first client. And so let's talk about that. Why is that? Well, in this video, like I said, I want to talk about the number one enemy of all new developers. And if we're being honest, this is the number one enemy of all developers, no matter what the level is. But when you're making money, it's a lot easier than when you're just learning to code and you can't see that light at the end of the tunnel. That enemy, the enemy of all developers, but especially people learning to code, is burnout. Burnout is the enemy. If you give up and you stop learning to code, you will never get that job. And even if you get very burned out and you need to take a few weeks off, it's going to be that much harder to start again. Once you quit, even for a few weeks, the chances of you getting back on the train, getting back on the path of success, go down tremendously. Burnout is the enemy. So you need to keep that in mind as someone learning to code, because if you continue learning, even if you're learning incorrectly, you are going to find success. I guarantee it. I don't think that coding is for everyone, but if you've been learning for a while and coding is something that you like doing, you can do it. You can be successful if you don't give up. So this video is really meant to be a word of encouragement for people learning, but I have 3 tips that I hope will help you stay on the path to success, and let's get into those right now. Tip number 1 is maybe the most obvious one, but trust me, I did not have this mindset while learning to code before I made any money, and I've seen so many other learners forget about this, and that is that it's a marathon and not a sprint. Your midterm or short-term goal might be to get a job in the industry, but as a web developer and a programmer, you're never done learning. In fact, there's a saying going around that I really agree with, and it's that all developers are self-taught developers, even if they have a computer science degree. And that's because with every little project, no matter how big or small, you're going to have to be Googling. You're not going to know everything, and there will always be things that you need to figure out. Whether you're a very junior developer or a very senior developer, you will always be learning. This is not something where you learn for a year or 2 or 3 years and then you're just done and you can sit back. No, you're going to be a lifelong learner, and so approach programming and web development that way. And that's very important because, at least for me, I think I would have taken a very different approach when I was learning to code had I kept that in mind. First of all, I wouldn't have worried so much about studying for 12 hours on the weekends. If you take a day off from learning, that's okay. It's no big deal because you're going to be learning for years. And I can also say, in my case, I should have been more concerned with really mastering the fundamentals. It's a marathon and not a sprint. Tip number 2 for avoiding burnout and ultimately finding success after learning to code is to network with other people and work with other people on projects, on portfolio projects. Once you get that first job or that first client, other people are going to be involved. If you find success, you get that dream job, you're going to be working on a team. And even if you find those freelance clients and you're just working by yourself, you will need to learn to communicate well with that client. You're going to need to understand their vision and their expectations for the project. So it's extremely important that you learn to work with others. And tools like Git are insanely important. If you understand Git, you understand how to use different project management tools, and you can communicate well, you're going to be way ahead of the game. Being a programmer and a web developer is much, much more than just your technical skills, so start networking now. I really recommend checking out the 100 Days of Code challenge, the hashtag on Twitter. Network with other people. Even if you can't be coding every day, the goal of the challenge is to encourage you to code consistently and to help you meet other people who are learning. So pay attention to what other people are learning. Get on Twitter, follow some of those big names, and you'll start to learn some of the language in the industry. Quick warning, the 100 Days of Code challenge is amazing, and I really think that Twitter is one of the main reasons I was able to stick with it and actually end up getting a job and getting freelance gigs in the end. But on Twitter, you're going to see many, many, many people learning to code, and it will seem like they are just flying. They learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in a month. They're React masters after the second month. Then they're a full stack JavaScript developer. Don't pay attention to those people. Stay on your own journey. Likely, those people are just flying through Udemy courses or YouTube courses, and they're not really learning. So don't look at other people's journeys and let that discourage you from making progress on your own. Baby steps every day, every week is how you're going to become a good developer, and the skills are what matter. It doesn't matter how many courses you complete or even what terminology you know about. I spent almost a year learning to code, and I realized that I had just completed several Udemy courses, but I still needed to go back to the basics because I was not thinking like a programmer. And finally, for the third tip for avoiding burnout and getting that job is to code 6 days a week. And this is more like a guideline. This is more like an attitude to have. I really do believe that you should code consistently. You should code every day if you can, but don't be afraid to take those days off. You won't forget everything. You're not going to learn to code in a weekend anyway, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. So take a day or even 2 days off every week. Or if you have a busy schedule and there's a day where you planned on studying and learning, but something came up and you couldn't code, don't beat yourself up about it. You're not going to learn to code in one day, and so you need to take the approach that you are going to avoid burnout at all costs. And I personally think that I would have been in a much better mental state learning to code if I had taken one day off every single week. So even if you're doing the 100 Days of Code challenge, that's okay. Even the founder of the challenge said that this is more about helping people get into the industry and learn to code, have some accountability for coding consistently. But it's okay to take days off, and I'm telling you that you should. So take the approach that if there's a day where for some reason you can't learn, you can't study, you can't work on that portfolio project, no big deal. Because if it takes you 3 months, 3 years, 5 years to get that job, if you don't give up, even if you're learning the wrong way, if you don't give up, you can improve those study habits, you can carve out time in your busy schedule to learn, and you will get there. So don't give up, and you're going to reach your goals, whether that's freelancing or getting a job. You can do it. There's never been a better time to learn to code. There are so many free resources. There are so many great course instructors, and with the way the internet is now, you can do it. So those are my 3 tips for you. Just remember that burnout is the enemy. If you don't burn out and quit, you're going to make it. You can do it. And I needed to make this video because when I was learning to code, there were 2 moments where I was this close to quitting, and I'm so glad I didn't. Ever since I got that first freelance client, my life has continued to change for the better, and I really can't imagine doing anything other than web development. I really love it. I feel passionate about it, and so you can do it too. Just stick with it, whether you have half an hour to learn every day or whether you have 8 hours to learn. Don't get burned out, and you will find success. This was a short video, but if you would like to see more videos about WordPress, JavaScript, CSS, freelancing, or Upwork, anything else, please let me know in the comments below. I will add it to the list. I've noticed there are so many new people here, and I'm very grateful. Like I said, I really want to help those who are learning to code, who are trying to freelance or break into the industry. So thanks so much. Check back soon to the channel and take care.